Today we're making an easy tomato sauce from scratch. Today we're making an easy tomato sauce from scratch using fresh tomatoes. Growing up, it was a family tradition to go over to my Nonno and Nonna's at the end of every summer, early September, and we'd all make tomato sauce to last us through the winter. I can remember going into their garage and having tomatoes strewn all over the floor, and it just smelled like summer. We used to work all day long, and at the end we'd have a pasta feast with our fresh tomato sauce. Now I'm going to share their Italian recipe with you. Here are the ingredients you'll need for this recipe. Feel free to pause. I'll list the ingredients in the description below. Today I'm using these beautiful San Marzano tomatoes. The reason I'm using these is they have a really nice fleshy texture. There aren't a lot of seeds in there, so there isn't a lot of waste when it comes to this tomato sauce. You can use any good sauce tomato like a Roma or a plum tomato. If you do have a tomato that has lots of seeds, I'll show you how to take those out after. Just make sure whatever tomato you use one with a lot of flavor, ideally one that's either on the vine or made for sauce. We'll start by washing our tomatoes. Put them into a pot and then cover with boiled water. Let these sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. While the tomatoes are sitting in their boiling water, we're going to chop our onion and our garlic and get it sauteing in our pan. Chop the onions into a medium fine dice. I'm just going to roughly chop the garlic because I'm putting it through a food processor. But if you haven't got a food processor blender or hand immersion blender at home, you can certainly just chop this finer. A great trick for finely chopping garlic is to sprinkle just a little bit of salt on top so that the garlic doesn't stick to your knife. It allows you to break through the garlic a lot easier, and then it also softens the garlic so you can make it nice and smooth. Set your saucepan on your stove to medium-high heat. We're going to add in some of our olive oil. You may not need all of it. And then our onion and our garlic. Give that a stir. Get all of your onion and garlic coated with your oil. And we're just going to let that sizzle away a little bit. Not too hot. We just want it to get to a nice golden color. After about 5 minutes, you'll notice the skin starting to peel away. This is the great thing about these sauce tomatoes. They make the job so easy. But I'll show you what to do with a paring knife if it's not quite coming away that easily. Just get all of your tomatoes peeled and let them cool slightly before we chop them up. Now, if you find you haven't got the tomato skin splitting, this is an easy way to get the skin off. You're just going to make a cross in the skin on the top, and it should, ideally, just peel away. So you'll want to take this core out. You don't want that in your sauce. So I'm just going to slice through, and I'll show you here as well how to take the seeds out. Although these haven't been very seedy. So split it in half. You can see there's not a whole lot of seed in there, but if you do have some seed that you need to take out, just run your finger along on the inside there. Now we're just going to take the core out, just like that. So you want to make sure any yellowy bits are gone so that you've got nothing hard there, and that's ready to be chopped up. So I've actually drained any seeds that I had and the skins into a colander over top of a pot. It looks like waste, but actually you can get some really good tomato juice out of that. We used to hang this with a cheesecloth and let all the juices drip out. And you can add that back to your sauce afterwards if it's too thick. We're just going to give these tomatoes a rough chop. And into a bowl they go. This is a great time to get your kids involved if you're not going to be blending the sauce. To really make it smooth, they can just get in and squeeze their fingers through it, and it's so much fun. I remember doing this as a child. That's ready for the pot. You can see our onion and our garlic is nice and golden brown, and it's ready for our tomato. So we're just going to drop those into our pot. I like to put an entire sprig of basil in because I find it really imparts a nice flavor to the sauce. We can add some fresh basil at the end as well, but I really like what this does when you cook it. We'll let this cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. Leave the lid off the pot and stir it pretty constantly for the 20 to 25 minutes so that it doesn't burn. We're going to pull that sprig of basil out and taste it for seasoning. We haven't added any salt yet at this point. So we'll start with just a teaspoon of salt. Give it a stir and then we'll taste it. This will cook down a little bit more, so we don't want to oversalt it at this point. A little bit more salt and just a sprinkle of sugar, about a 1/4 teaspoon, just to bring the sweetness of that tomato out. I've taken the pan off the heat and I'm going to let it cool just a little bit before I put it in the food processor. If we put it in the food processor straight away while it's hot, it could warp my bowl or it could cause the sauce to come shooting up the top. So what I'm going to do instead, so the sauce doesn't come up, is just place a towel on top. If you're using an immersion blender, you can do it from hot, so feel free to go ahead and blend your sauce at this stage. If you're going to use a regular kitchen blender, again, let it cool slightly. Make sure you take the little bit of the top off so it has that airflow and allows some air to get in and doesn't create a vacuum. You could also use a food mill to puree it down further, or you can serve it just like that, a little bit more rustic. Now make sure you follow the food processor guidelines. You only want to fill it about halfway when it's hot liquid. Let's pulse it a few times.
Are you sure it's on? I can't hear a thing. It's whisper quiet.
Now because I've pureed some of that down, I've got quite a bit of room to my halfway point, so I can add the rest of my sauce in. I've washed down our pot and now I'm going to add our sauce back in. We're just going to let this cook down a little bit more because we did let it cool so that we've got a nice thick sauce consistency, but actually that is pretty much where we want it to be. Let's give it another taste, make sure our seasoning is right. You can use this sauce for just about anything that you'd use tomatoes in regularly. So if you want to use it as a pizza base, that's great. As a base for tomato soup, it would be perfect. But today I've just made a little bit of pasta with some Parmigiano Reggiano on top, and we're going to have a taste now. And here's my little secret to make this sauce extra rich. We're just going to add a little bit of butter, maybe about 2 tablespoons for this amount of tomato. And just let that melt through just before serving. The tomato is the real star here. It just shines through so brightly. That little bit of sugar just lifts it up. It's not something that I ever traditionally added to my sauces, but as I've gotten older and learned a little bit more about our sauce and how to make tomatoes even better, it's really made a huge difference. And that butter at the end just makes it so creamy. If you haven't tried that one, definitely give it a go. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the comments.